hugging the bees, going to the polls and hugging the bees. The polls and hugging the bees, hugging the bees.
A wonderful good evening to all of you. Thank you for coming in your numbers. And I have come tonight on a labor of love to ask you for your support for a most wonderful young lady who I dare to predict is going to be a most extraordinary member of Parliament and one of the finest ever in this country. But before I get to that message and my other messages, today I had to appear on Starcom Network News to really diffuse any issues about our being triumphal or my making decisions in advance of becoming the Prime Minister of the country. At the start of this campaign, I urge the family of the Barbados Labour Party to show the country, by the manner in which we conduct ourselves in this campaign, what kind of government we will give the country. That commitment still stands. And I don't want anybody in the Barbados Labour Party to be making it appear as if we are presumptuous, that we won already, and we're making decisions as a government. I certainly have waited long enough that if I have to wait for a few more days, no big deal with me. And I don't want anybody also creating any unnecessary controversies in the Barbados Labour Party. Seats settled. Let us get on with the job. Let us show the country that we are a disciplined institution which is capable of giving this country the kind of leadership that is necessary in these most troubling days. Tonight I also, before I speak formally to you, has to acknowledge that one of our own, Mr. Lionel Craig, was recently very ill. He got ill attending our meetings. I'm told that he has come out of hospital, but I'm sure that I speak on the behalf of the entire family of the Barbados Labour Party when I wish him good health and hope that he will get a full recovery and will join us back also on the campaign trail. I'm told that my friend Mr. Bradshaw was recently ill as well, and I hope that he is fully recovered. Mr. Bradshaw's illness is not as serious as Lionel. He has reached that stage in life where he is getting stiffness in the wrong places. And he's complaining about it. And he's also reaching that stage in life where certain parts of his body are no longer obeying commands from other parts of his body. And he's quarreling about those things. But Bradshaw, we hope that you recover as well too. But my pleasure tonight is to ask you to embrace a testimonial I offer on behalf of young Santia Bradshaw. I am conscious of the obligation that falls upon me to put in place a team capable of responding to the challenges that confront our country, challenges that are more enormous than I believe have ever confronted any previous government. And we have been very scrupulous in the Barbados Labour Party in trying to put together a team of blended maturity and tremendous young talent. And Santia Bradshaw really represents one of the finer young talents, not only just in the Barbados Labour Party, but in Barbados politics. And I believe that in her time, she will come to stand out as one of the most outstanding parliamentarians in the history of Barbados. She has already, I think, shown what she is capable of in the way in which she has organized and represented members of our creative community. Their confidence in her has been reflected in this campaign. And Sante, I thank you for what you have brought to this campaign. She has brought an energy to it and an imagination to it that has made this campaign distinct. I thank you for that, and I want the people of this constituency to know that I do not only anticipate her having a lot of work to do in this constituency, but I anticipate that she will have a lot of work to do as part of the next government of Barbados. Now, I'm sure that you all are going to obey the instruction that there's to be no politics tomorrow. And that when next we meet, we'll be dealing with a manifesto. So that this is going to be my last speech to the country on the record of the Democratic Labour Party. And I believe that in this constituency, I should conclude my evaluation of the stewardship of the Democratic Labour Party by speaking to you and through you to Barbados on the dangers of financial recklessness. And that is the first matter on which I seek to speak to you about. Our country has been a well-governed country, a country that has been a model of countries among the developing world for many things. But it has been a model of development and stability and progress because financial stability and financial prudence and respect for financial prudence have always been at the center of our government in Barbados. And I remember in 1986, 1987, when I had to speak for the first time as a shadow minister of finance, Errol Barrow struck me by his expression of what financial prudence was about. Richie Haynes, immediately after the 1986 election, had given a wage increase, but brought estimates to the House that did not show how that wage increase was going to be paid for. And I was criticizing him. And Errol Barrow made a statement. He said, young man, hold your strictures until he brings the budget, when he has to show how those wages have to be paid for. And all ministers of finance, all prime ministers of Barbados have sought to show that the management of our financial affairs, that have sought to show, and ladies, if you don't mind, please, can we have one meeting? That this country's ministers of finance, all governments until now, have really shown that the practice of financial responsibility is necessary for the orderly growth and development of our Barbadian society. And tonight in St. Michael's Southeast, having had a MP such as Hamilton Lashley, and having now a DLP aspirant, and what's it, a banker who has moved from bank to bank to bank, I come to speak on the issues of what happens to a country when financial recklessness becomes the order of the day. Barbados' problems today are due to many things. But it is wrong for the government of the day to lead you to believe that it is only due to international recession. The government has a financial problem that has nothing to do with international recession. The government has a financial problem that is due to its financial recklessness. And let me make a clear point. I have never given any explanation as to why I removed Mr. Hamilton Lashley from my cabinet. But today I have to say that he was always a dem, apparently, because he believed in financial recklessness. And it was not only about the cutting down of the trees. There's a family in St. James who hate me and revile me because the family came to him. They wanted to have their daughter educated at the St. George Medical School. The government of Barbados does not accredit the St. George Medical School. But he told the people, well, I am going to arrange for the child's education at the St. George Medical School as a poverty project, without concern as to how it was going to be paid for. And I knew what it was to be a prime minister who was always so concerned to have to be looking over his shoulders as to what the man was doing. And I'm not saying that he was doing anything corrupt, but he has no sense of financial responsibility. And Barbados' problem today is that you now have a collection of Hamilton Lashleys in the government of Barbados who do not believe in the practice of financial responsibility. And that is to be found most evidently in the things called the constituency councils. The Democratic Labour Party has created constituency councils that are institutions at large. They have been doing what they feel like. They have been doing what they feel like in the belief that they are serving political masters and that their responsibility is to take the taxpayers' money at a time when you are struggling to pay your bills and to lick it out on a lot of foolishness in this country. Now, at first, the constituency councils were doing things that were innocuous. Their first report, and I have to tell you what we were paying them $6 million to do. In the first report, the Christchurch South Constituency Council had a town hall meeting. They had a health and wellness fair, and then it did Sunday bushing. The St. George South one had a cleanup project, an independence extravaganza, a cleanup and bulk waste project, a meeting with the community organization, and that was all. The St. Philip South one had a resource directory survey. They had an education outreach. They debushed some bends. They had an official launch of the farmers market. They looked at some dangerous wells. They had a town hall meeting. St. John's North, they gave out some Christmas hampers. They took your taxpayers' money and paid for a community walkthrough, and they had something called a Youth with a Purpose program. St. Michael North, they had a walk through the community. Can you imagine in today's world your taxpayers' money being taken up to pay people to walk through a constituency? No, it's not something to laugh at. It's not madness. You are paying the Second 11 DLP team to canvass. That's what the walk through the constituency is all about. And then they had a Bajan Fund Day and a Yale Progress program. And St. Michael Northwest, at that time, they had a Meet the Council program, the Peter Sprayer Memorial Football Competition. We paid for a 3K run, a panel discussion, and a debuting program. Since then, however, the constituency councils of Barbados have started to do some things that are sickening the stomach. And they are using the taxpayers' money in ways that would be unacceptable to be a responsible government, and in ways that are intended only to advance political patronage in the interest of the Democratic Labour Party. I spoke in Carolina Car Park of the dangers of political tribalism. And the dangers of political tribalism in Barbados are real. When you take a country and a political institution believes that the country belongs to them and that they can take up the taxpayers' money and do the things that these constituency councils are doing, Barbados is on the slippery slope to disaster. I remember when Hamilton last year was in my government, how embarrassed I heard when he was wanted to take the ministry's money and give up Christmas hampers. And they called him and said, Hamilton Lashley, in St. Peter every year, I give out hampers. I don't make a big deal out of it. There are 40 churches in St. Peter. I don't give out hampers myself, but I raise hampers and give the churches because they know who the truly needy are. And you must not be like a Pharisee, go and beat your chest and says, I have given out hampers to poor people. No politician should do that. But I don't ask the government to pay for it. In St. Peter, I have been an MP for 28 years. And for over 25 years, we've had community football called the St. Peter Football League. And I encourage community groups in St. Peter to organize the football. And my responsibility as the Member of Parliament is to help them to meet any overrun, any cost excess beyond what they can raise through sponsorship. So that community football becomes a means by which community groups express themselves. And no government should be having to take over community football and take your money, $600,000, at a time when the Barbados Coalition of Service Providers vote is being cut by $600,000, and that's the coalition is to find work for Barbados service providers across the world, and put in a football competition. That's wrong. Leave it to community groups. And I hear now that you have constituency councils giving out hampers at Christmas and doing things that all kinds of other government departments are doing. And they're not doing it out of the gladness of their heart or to solve problems of poverty in this country. They are doing it only for the purpose of buying political patronage on behalf of the Democratic Labour Party. But are they doing it in a responsible way? And I have to read for you the report of the Auditor General for the year 2010, when he says, Section 9 of the Constituency Council Act 2009 requires each council to keep proper accounts and adequate financial and other records in relation thereto. The provisions of the Act were not adhered to as follows. There was no evidence to show that monthly reconciliation statements have been prepared. Now, every month, as an ordinary person, you have to reconcile your bank statements. But no reconciliation statements. The absence of bank reconciliation statements could expose the council to the risk of unauthorized transactions being going undetected. And secondly, financial statements were not prepared and presented for audit for each council as required by Section 9.3 of the Constituency Councils Act. So these councils are using your money. They are not reconciling how the money is being used. And they are breaking the law insofar as financial statements are being required to be prepared and presented for audit by each council, but the councils are not making those audits available. Now, I am making this an issue because, as I tell you, Santia Bradshaw comes to service in your constituency with a proven record of being able to put things together properly, to put things together in a financially responsible manner, to organize and manage the entertainers and the cultural entrepreneurs of Barbados in a way that makes people proud of what she is doing. Against her is coming a man who was the chairman of the constituency council up here, indulging in all kind of practices that, of course, the Auditor General to raise this query about the financial improprieties that are taking place as regards the use of your money and its misuse as well, and in a manner that is contrary to the law. And in this campaign, the Democratic Labour Party should have been able to come and tell you in this constituency how every red penny of your money has been spent by these constituency councils. And you would be shocked as to what are some of the things that your constituency councils are doing with your money in your name that have nothing whatsoever to do with the meeting of the people's needs. And I want you to know that Barbados cannot continue on this course. People in Barbados are hurting. Barbadians are unable, some, to pay their light bills, to pay their water bills. Some Barbadians are struggling now to put a decent meal on their table for their family on Sundays. And it is a very, very wrong thing when Barbadians are struggling in this way for these constituency councils to be taking your money and licking it out for purposes that are intended only to serve the ends of the Democratic Labour Party. Now, when I spoke in Carlisle Car Park, I told Labour Party people who want to serve with me that Barbados does not belong to the Barbados Labour Party. Do not come to office feeling that these financial excesses that have been perpetrated by the Democratic Labour Party purely for the purposes of giving themselves a political partisan advantage is the way in which our country should be run. And if people believe that because the Dems did it, we should do it too, well, I want you to know that I had enough of the, what's the man's name again? That your former MP? Actually, I've had enough of the Hamilton Lashley types in politics. He crossed the floor once, he crossed the floor a second time, so you can call him a double crosser. But beyond that, the attitude that the people's resources are there to be leaked out only for the benefit of a certain partisan class is precisely how Barbados affairs should not be run. Now, I dealt only with the constituency councils. But our affairs cannot continue to be run in circumstances where a Minister of Finance tells you that every month he has to borrow to pay 7,000 civil servants. If you had to borrow every week to pay your maid or your gardener, you would know that you are in a situation of financial recklessness, and that at some stage, that has to stop. And more to the point, that even as he is finding it impossible from his ordinary revenues to pay those persons and have to borrow, people like Dennis Lowe, Michael Ashley, and others are taking on more and more and more. Now, this is recklessness. Because if you can't afford to pay those that are already employed, what business are you to take on others to give them the false promise that you are giving them a job that is sustainable? These things are wrong, reckless, and has to stop. Our country must not be run this way. And all of the other pieces of financial misdemeanors that the Democratic Labour Party is involved with must stop. I deal in this regard with the way in which the Democratic Labour Party, as an act of financial recklessness, because it is recklessness, is putting money in the pockets of certain people, but say that we are wrong to tell you that we want to put the money in your pockets. And you better let me contextualize that for you. The Barbados Labour Party from the days of Tom Adams, and Bradshaw, you were there. We felt that it was absolutely necessary to have a society where people's aspirations could be given expression to by giving them the means to translate those aspirations into opportunities. Tom Adams was a past master at it. Tom Adams sought to bring, for example, alternative energy to Barbados before anybody else by giving you tax incentives to enable you to use solar energy for water heating. And he also was the first person to say that there needed to be a class of Barbadians who did not pay income tax. That the first $10,000 of your income was needed for you to pay your bills. And it was Tom Adams who introduced the concept of tax relief for those at the bottom. And Tom Adams and the Labour Party has always believed that Barbados must be a property-owning democracy. We have evolved in a society where only a certain class of people own shares and own companies. And we felt that you had to build a bridge between aspiration and opportunity by giving tax incentives for people to invest in ownership of shares. And it was the Labour Party that also, under Tom Adams, says that, look, you have to be able to get some tax relief if you own a home. Because the most important investment that most Barbadians have is the house that they live in. So when we speak now of tax relief and tax reform, it is not a gimmick that we are coming with. It is something that has been tried and proven beginning with Tom Adams. And in our own time, between 1994 and 2008, we sought to develop this country by developing our exports, and we did, because we moved off, and I want the media to carry this. We found our foreign exchange at $387 million in 1994. We left $2.8 billion in foreign exchange reserves. So we had to be developing our foreign exchange earnings. We understand that. But we also understood that you could not get Barbados to grow unless people in Barbados had money to spend on things produced in Barbados. And 76% of economic activity in this country is on things produced in Barbados. So we had income tax return reform to allow you, if you're earning $25,000 or less, to pay no income tax. We dropped the tax rate on people. We dropped the tax rate on companies from 40% to 25%. We dropped the tax rate on small businesses from 40% to 12%. The land tax, we take the first $150,000 free of tax. The property tax, we dropped them. And if you were not paying income tax, but paying the VAT, we said take back some of the VAT in the form of a reverse tax credit. Why do you think that we managed the economy in such a way that over that 14 years, unemployment was dropped from 24% to 6%, and we did it without depleting the reserves? Because the reserves moved from 380 to 2.8 billion. The two can be done together. We did it. Now I am making this an issue in this campaign because Randall Stewart has responded to me. When he said that in our manifesto, we believe that part of the future that we're offering you is that we have to give you tax relief. That you are hurting. You are hurting. And that the government tax policies are counterproductive because they've increased the value-added tax rate from 15 to 17, but they're getting in less VAT. The rate gone up, the amount of VAT increase, the amount of VAT collected has come down. The income tax have gone up, the income tax receipt have come down. So what it is telling you is that you're taxing people more and more, getting less and less revenue. The time has come to stop that. And we will reverse all that foolishness. I mean, the notion, for example, that you have to tell a man riding a bicycle in Barbados that he has to pay an increased fee is folly. And a whole Minister of Finance should not go down to Parliament and increase fees on bicycles. Not in today's world. Now, the reason I'm raising the issue is this. Randall Stewart has gone now on record as saying that we are not only wrong, but he has sought to strike a distance philosophically between the Labour Party and himself in these terms. He said, if the only, and this is Randall Stewart's words, and this is the position of the Democratic Labour Party in this campaign, when we are telling you that we want to help you by putting back some money in your pockets, not only to help you, but and that means for you to help build back this economy. He said, if the only issue is putting money in your pocket, he said, well, you ain't got to wait on no government. Drug pushers got money. You can get from them too. The criminal element has money. You can get from them too. Do you believe this? That a Prime Minister of Barbados is telling you that there's something wrong with putting money in people's pockets by way of tax relief, that you could get it from drug pushers or criminals? Perhaps sometimes, you know, Frandel, it is better that you had remained asleep and kept quiet and let people continue to believe that you're a fool rather than to open your mouth and to remove all doubt. Because for anybody in today's world to tell Barbadians that go and look to drug traffickers, go and look to the criminal elements that put money in your pocket, but don't look to the government, it's not only misguided, but I'm saying that he is wicked. Because at the same time that he is telling you don't look to the government to put money in your pocket, his government is putting money in the pockets of cost you less by tax relief. Tax relief, cost you less, is being brought to Barbados. And it is being allowed to operate on terms different from anybody else. that no VAT or tax on its furnishing, construction, on its sales operations. Its employees are allowed to have cars duty-free, to bring in everything that they want duty-free. The investors in cost you less are told by the government that you can keep any profits, that dividends that you get, and put all in your pocket for 15 years without paying withholding tax on them. That if you lend money to cost you less, you don't have to pay the interest on it. So, cost you less can get tax relief from the government, but the people in the Pine, the people all across this constituency, are being told by Friendly Stewart, if you want money in your pockets, well, drug pushers got money too. And you can get from them too. And the criminal element has money, and you can get the money from them. This, I believe, must rank as the second saddest statement made recently by a member of the Democratic Labour Party. Is the second. The worst is that made by Chris Sinclair. I am tonight on a platform to ask you to support a young lady, idealistic young lady, who is coming to public life interested in serving. And throughout the rest of this campaign, you will hear a refrain from me. The time has come for the long history of the brutalization, verbally and otherwise, of our women folk has to stop. And the time has come for young professional women who come forward to serve in the public domain. This time has come for them not to be held up and vilified in terms that turn the stomach. Clyde would have been telling you about the CLICO. Chris Sinclair did, in fact, mislead the public. CLICO's liabilities are, in fact, $837 million. But to find out how much will be required to settle CLICO, you have to set off what CLICO owns. And CLICO owns 440-something million. So all that it will take in total to settle CLICO in Barbados and the OECS is not 830-something, but in fact 300 and odd. But if you were dealing with Barbados alone, all that it will take to settle CLICO is in fact not $837 million, as Chris Sinclair said. But let me give you the facts. That CLICO has assets in Barbados that, when subtracted from their liabilities, means that all you have to do to solve the CLICO problem is to find $77 million. And we told the government that, look, set aside a day, let Parliament meet, and the opposition will join you to tell the rest of the world that a government should not keep 335,000 people in a situation of contingency, not coming, not knowing if they're coming or going. There are pensioners who have investments in CLICO who are living on the interest of those investments, and they now cannot get any of that money. Their lives now is a living hell. The CLICO matter has to be solved. And we told them, let us meet as one. And we will tell the IDB, the IMF, the rating agencies, and whoever else that we were sent by the people of Barbados to Parliament to govern their affairs, and that we know how to govern, and that we will speak with one voice and find a $77 million solution to CLICO and take people out of the misery that is the CLICO problem. But they don't want to act because part of the solution to Clico's problem must be that those who have brought Clico to its knees, their assets must be pursued too. Because the taxpayers alone cannot be forced to pay to solve this problem, while men walking around, as I like to say, in fine Italian suits, indulging in fine dining, and holding on to large amount of assets that must be brought into the pool to help solve this problem. But they do not want to touch those people, their pals. And that is why, for 4 years, this situation has been allowed to fester. Now I say it becomes a serious matter because when Ms. Fowler raised it, Chris Sinclair addressed her in terms that are so sick. He said that they had around their house, they had a very ignorant little cat. Her name was Pussy. And she says that Miss Fowler speaking reminds her of Pussy. She is as ignorant as a bald-headed pussycat. Now, for a minister of finance in today's world, to address a lady doing her job in these most derogatory terms is an abuse of the confidence that has been put in him to be a minister of this country. It is the most degrading statement ever made by a minister of finance against anybody in this country. And let us for a minute remember who have been our ministers of finance. Errol Barr was a minister of finance. Tom Adams was a minister of finance. P. St. John was a minister of finance. Richie Haynes was a minister of finance. Erskine Sandiford was a minister of finance. David Thompson was a minister of finance. I was a minister of finance. And we understand the significance of the high office that you hold when a minister of finance speaks. And for the ladies of Barbados to hear another lady addressed by a minister of finance in these terms, merely because she sought to correct him and she did not abuse him, is, in my view, the most vulgar denunciation of any citizen of this country in the history of Barbados. Miss Fowler has a family. She has a mother. She has daughters. She has nieces and aunts. And nobody in Barbados should feel that this is the way to treat our women folk. And they have already called upon the churches, and it seems as though they are deaf. But I was hearing that we should have, at the start of this campaign, we should have had something called a code of conduct. And at the start of this campaign, they said we didn't need in the Labour Party to sign one. We were going to impose one on ourselves. And they forbid anybody in the Barbados Labour Party to come on these platforms and abuse people, including abusing our opponents. And if anybody in the Labour Party has spoken about anybody in these terms, merely for telling the public the truth, I would find it impossible to go on a platform and ask for a vote for them. So it's not only the church and the National Organization of Women, the leadership of this country have a duty to set a proper record and to tell Chris Sinclair that he is not Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, as you know, in the United States of America, there was a young lady who went before the Congress and spoke. And he used his radio program to call her a word that I don't feel is appropriate for me to use from this platform. We do not want any Rush Limbaughs in this country. Chris Sinclair may look like Rush Limbaugh. He jumps up and down like a mouse in oxygen like Rush Limbaugh. But we are not going to accept this behavior from him. And he must not feel that this violence of language will intimidate the public from telling the truth. But I'm raising it, and I must raise it today, Mr. Bradshaw, because your daughter is seeking to start a career in politics. I believe that she has a contribution to make. And I do not believe that she or any other person coming to public life should be vilified in these kind of terms. And that this campaign cannot end unless justice is meted out to this woman. And I'm calling tonight once again for us to show that we can be a society of justice by those who, that man who has treated this lady in this most vicious of terms, be ostracized and condemned by our civil society and the entire political class in the strongest possible terms. And Santia, I will shudder for you if you, as you come to start a political life, have to endure this abuse from people holding high office. And for me, it is a fundamental issue because I have 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters. And I am telling you that it would be difficult for me to reconcile myself to what I may have to do if anybody were to speak of my 2 daughters in these terms. This is wrong. It is sick. And it should be enough for the whole society of Barbados to tell Chris Sinclair, you are unfit to hold any office in this country. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've come tonight to ask you for your support for a fine young lady. I have important work for her to do as part of the next government of Barbados. She's already more than proven herself in the areas in which she has sought to express herself on behalf of people. And I am satisfied that you have the opportunity now to give us in Barbados a shining example of the kind of talent that, given an opportunity in this country, will help us to prepare a better life and a brighter future for our children. Good night, and God bless each and every one of you.
There isn't everything, and people in working. We suffering, we got to do something. But you could guarantee when Owen win for me, Owen will see to it that money.
Well, you just heard the political leader of the Barbados Labour Party and the next Prime Minister of Barbados come February the 21st, 2013. I will now welcome to the platform the current representative, who will remain the representative of St. Michael North East, Mia Maudsley.
And the time soon gone for people suffer too long. The help party, the giant now wake. Tell them the poor people water break. The gas, the light, and the water rate. Only so much people could take.
20 years and plus good times and rougher ways here to serve. That's what you deserve. Shout M-I-A. Well, let me hear you say M-I-A. Sing it loud. We suffer
What a very cool.
Cuts and bleed me too much. If you can't ignore, just come get on board.
One a very cool. The throat gonna last out cause Santia meeting on tonight. I have brought Santia back on stage with me because I feel a certain degree of pride. The first person to be nominated as a Barbados Labour Party candidate for this election at short notice, when the party was in need, was Santia Bradshaw. And the first shall remain the first. Because on the 21st of February, the first seat that I want to hear from St. Michael will be Santia Bradshaw. Thank you, darling.
Thanks, man.
And you know why I brought Santia up? Because life is funny. In 2008, sometime back in March, Hamilton Lashley came into my office. And Hamilton Lashley said, because he used to call me General, he said, General, I want to talk to you. I said, what happened, Hammy? He says, we have the person who will be an even better representative than me for the people of St. Michael Southeast. I said, who that is, Hammy? He said, Santia Bradshaw. So that he may not want to come out because he still got to live with the Dems. But I can come out tonight. And I can tell you what Hammy told me. I can tell you what Hammy told me. And he told me that this girl has so much energy. And what makes it more special is that she's not only a lawyer, but that the real thing about her is that you should see how she's worked with young people and give them chance and opportunity. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, she already working with Lil Rick. She got Peter Ram, a whole set of other artists. She has carried them to the outside world in a way that nobody else has carried them to the outside world. People from Britain's Hill and St. George that only used to perform in a dub. Now all over the world, people calling for these people and paying them not Barbados dollars, but US dollars. US dollars, yes, darling. And he went on to talk about the collaborations and the things that she was doing. And I was left in no doubt that the next candidate for the Barbados Labour Party in St. Michael Southeast would be Santia Bradshaw. I thought the nomination might have been 2011, bearing in mind that I thought that an election by a prime minister who knew what he was doing, and in fairness, it was not Frandel, because he does not know what he was doing, would have been around 2011, late, early 2012. And in my mind, I figured that Santia would have the time to come on the ground and develop and come through by 2011. But I didn't know that Hammy wanted to have his name put on the crossover that was to be built out there. Because he has made himself an expert on crossovers. But if you know a man, you don't get vexed. And therefore, when he crossed back over, I didn't see it as a loss to the Labour Party. I saw it as an opportunity to launch the future of the Barbados Labour Party as far back as 2008, October. And she has not disappointed one iota. Anybody who has seen how Santia has matured, not just in relation to the platform. I said in Carlisle Car Park that tears came to my eyes. And they came to my eyes for one reason. That I knew and saw the distance, and looking at you, Santia, that she had come as a candidate, not just in terms of platform, but in terms of dealing with people. 2 years ago, Santia and I had a conversation. And Santia knew that one of the teams that I was inviting into the New Line Pelican football was coming from here. And we discussed it. And I said, Santia, stick close to the people. Just stick close to the people. Little did I know that sticking close to the people was to become so much a part of her that every practice session that she was available for, she was with the academics team on Parkinson Field. She didn't just turn up for the game. She was with the men every practice session. When a man got hurt on the field, Santia left Kensington Oval and went to FMH to make sure that that player got the assistance that he needed and that he would lack for nothing. And I therefore have come tonight to talk to you about opportunity. Opportunity. I could come in the pine and I could deal with Tanis, Panis, Lanis, Fanis. I could do that. I might need till tomorrow morning to deal with him. Or I could go to an ATM and give you a bank slip and let you deal with him. I could come and talk about the wickedness and the lies that are being perpetrated on a DLP platform every night. And the fact that here is a government not once addressing what they are going to do for you to put money back into your pockets instead of telling you go to a drug dealer. Not telling you, the people of St. Michael, where 1 in every 3 people are unemployed without work, how you are going to get jobs back again in this country. Not telling you how Barbados will go to work again for you, the people of Barbados. I could talk about that all night. But I want to talk about opportunity. Because that is what you as a mother or a grandmother, you as a father or a grandfather, you as a brother, you as a sister want to know. Because when your child is without work and when your son is being harassed because he has nothing to do and idleness gets in the way and gets him into things, that is what hurts you. That is what causes you to bang your belly. But when that same child can go to Kensington Oval on Independence Night and win with a team $100,000 and make the whole community proud, that makes you feel different. And that gives you something to be proud about. And I have determined, because nobody got time put down, I don't know how long it is, but however long it is, I treat St. Michael as one parish. And I was born into this parish. And I use and will use every ounce of strength in my body to make sure that the people who live in St. Michael can reach for the stars and even land on the trees if they fall short. I want to make sure that you get opportunities for you and your children. And I can choose to spend the energy from the top of my head to the sole of my foot to get even, to curse, and that will bring me out here. But if I'm out here, I can't be out here creating opportunity for you. And if I want to be in the middle, it means I'm still not giving enough time and energy. And why? I have been lucky. My father knows what it is to grow up in a house. And my uncle with a pit toilet as boys. But they came out of that. And I was lucky enough not to face it. And I have been lucky enough to be raised by parents who caused me to understand that there, but for the grace of God goes I. I had to speak in Tudor Bridge, Eagle Hall, where I grew up. Whether it was Gearbox or Tom Adams, whether it was Bill or Brees and John. My father was a member of parliament, so all kinds of people used to be in and out. And the most important thing in life that I learned is that people are people to be respected. And people only need an opportunity. There are few who will waste it. But I should never deny another man an opportunity because somebody else wasted it. And in this crowd tonight, there are many of you who some have gotten and some are still waiting. And Santia has a similar path to public life as me. Like me, her father was a member of parliament. Like me, she started not just in the law, which was not enough to occupy her time, but also in creating opportunities for people in the cultural industries. I managed John King and Signature and Knockbout Music, Arturo Tappin, Nicholas Branca. I started the jazz in the waterfront on a Tuesday night. Santia took it to a different and next level. Luckily, because the Barbados Labour Party was able to create a framework that being 10 years younger, she was then able to start at a higher level. Because by then, we had had the Bajan invasion in Trinidad. We had then had all kinds of engineers like Terry and all of them. When I first went into music, men used to work in a job and then come and play music at night. Men used to work in a job and then come and engineer at night. By 95 and 96, men were working full time and making the living for the family from the cultural industries in this country. And therefore, Santia was able to take it to the next level and to deal with them now exporting on a consistent basis their services. This time in opposition, I could have gone back to culture. But I knew it was in good hands with people like Santia and Richard Haynes and all the other businesses that out there now exist and employ people. And I asked myself, what is the area in St. Michael where people need opportunity the most to make a piece of change that the government nor the traditional private sector is not making any room for them in? And it was football. Football. Every playing field in Barbados, fellas kicking a ball for the love of it. Occasionally, an out-of-season tournament for 5,000 or 7,000 or 8,000. And I realized that this thing just needed a bit of creativity and pulling together different sources to be able to create a product to use it as the platform for semi-professional football. And I also realized that with unemployment getting higher every year, to the point where 16,000 people have lost their jobs in this country, that if we could do something that would put a little something in people's pockets, that they could go and buy some diapers for the child mother, for the baby, or they could go and buy $50, $60 in groceries, as strong, as small as that seems. I told the people in Bank Hall last night, that last Friday night, A youngster from Bashal told me that when he wakes up with $20 in his pocket in the morning, he feels like a king. Because most mornings, he wakes up without a cent. That is the reality of many young men and women in St. Michael. And I make bold to say that when youngsters from Bushall and the Pine and Carrington Village can come and excel and entertain people across the country and be paid for it, not just for the love of it, then we are helping to create that economy for the youth that our manifesto will speak to on Thursday night when you come to Eagle Hall in your numbers to receive it. But it didn't just start there. I had the honor of being able to establish Youth Affairs, the Ministry of Youth Affairs. And we were able to create youth commissioners who would be the eyes and ears and the hands and feet of government. And what do I mean by that? That government is this big, obsocky structure for most people. Young people don't understand it. The older people, you got to deal with different government departments, so you're going to get up and go. But we created youth commissioners that instead of waiting for people to come into an office, these youth commissioners would come into the community and meet with young people where they are and be able to understand what they wanted to do. We would do a survey every year of over 4,000 school leavers to be able to decide where we put the programming, where we put the training. People who had never touched a volleyball before end up being trained, playing for Barbados, and getting a scholarship to university outside, becoming the first member of their family ever to go overseas to a university. That's what we've been able to do. And then we went on to Project Oasis. And there are people in this crowd who can carry you from block to block to block in the Pine. Sabrina, who helped bring me up here just now, she is one of the people who benefited from Project Oasis in computer repair and small business. There are men up here who got power washers, who still have it, and who were given contracts at schools. Rather than some big contractor come in, the people were able to help take care and help make a piece of change from institutions in the community. This is what politics is to be about. Not cursing and calling somebody whatever Chris Sinclair said about June Fowler. Because those of you, especially those of you who are older, you don't want to leave this earth knowing that you have children and grandchildren who are going to boat. Got to ask and beg a favor each time. You want to know that in a Barbados that will soon be 50 years old, that your hard work counts for something in this country. And it is not only the people from the heights and the terraces. It is not only the people who can say, I know so-and-so, or I know so-and-so, who can pull and get a favor. It must be any child in this country, any young person in this country prepared to work hard enough and to be talented enough to follow the talents as the Bible exhorts you to do. Follow them and use them. So I am here tonight because I believe that this young woman, Santia Bradshaw, has the same philosophy to people as I do. And I look back at her nomination and I see how far she has come already. And I listened to Owen Arthur just now about what work she has to steel herself to be ready to undertake on behalf of you, her constituents, and on behalf of the people of Barbados. And I say to you that if she continues to grow at the rate at which she grows, then you in the Pine will be proud that in the year you elected her father as your representative, was the same year that she was born. And when you elected him as your representative in 76, you did not know that you were getting 2 for the price of 1. It was the best vote you cast in 76. Because he raised her to understand how to deal with people. There are people in this community who told me, we helped raise Santia. There are fellas in this community who tell me, we run boat with Santia. And with her training, she could have gone anywhere. She could have done anything. And especially in the entertainment business, which is global if you must make a lot of money in it, she could have chosen money over commitment. But she has chosen to work and uplift her people. And I tell you tonight, Santia, that there is no amount of money that you can earn that will replace the satisfaction of seeing people have their lives transformed. Today I walk through my constituency, and on every street I can see people whose lives have changed. I can see people owning land. I can see people getting the land at $250 a square foot instead of paying $10 and $15 a square foot because of the urban tenantries program. I can see youngsters who we help get scholarships for at the O-Level Institute. And I want to say thank you to Ify, one of your own. Ify came to Bush Hall for a Christmas party of mine 13 years ago. Did some stilt walking. And there were some youngsters, 9 and 10 and 11. And he took them and he trained them. And do you know that some of those youngsters are now making a living full-time in London and in Europe today as we speak? Strong, tight communities in St. Michael depend on creativity. Reggae did not come out of the heights and terraces of Jamaica. It came out of the bowels of Trenchtown. Calypso did not come out of the hills of Trinidad and Tobago. It came out down in Laventille, where men took oil drums and beat them up until they started to song melodic, where they used the creativity to create something that others like, and then to be able to make money from it. And I say that I now have another voice who believes like me that our citizens in the future must become global citizens through being the best artists and the best sportsmen we can make. Rihanna is only the icing on the cake. The best is yet to come. Because if we can start training people, nobody don't know where the next genius coming from. Nobody don't know where the next Gary Sober's coming from. We should be able, not only in sports and culture, but we should be able to have free Wi-Fi up to 512K. So every child that take out a little computer, a little tablet, a little BlackBerry, a little smartphone, can do things that you and I never thought could be done. And next thing you know, they're making money. They're youngsters in Barbados being paid by Google. 21 years old and making 25,000 US a month. There's another set of youngsters who are making money with a site called Black Girls Killing It. And you know what it is? A site where black women put pictures of themselves to show you in the world that black is beautiful. And you now have people from Africa, Europe, Asia, all kinds of people going on this site. Millions of followers. A boy from Barbados do that. Just like Gary Sobers, a boy from the Bayland, did that. Just like Suki King, a boy from Barbados, did that. And our role is to help those become global citizens, but equally to help the rest of you who may not be artists, who may not be sportsmen, who may not be IT people, but you should walk with dignity. And I am tired saying that this Democratic Labour Party government has taken our people and put them from the grandstand to the bleachers. But Santia and the rest of the Labour Party will put you back in the grandstand where you belong as proud Barbadians. You know, as I end, a friend of mine called me today and she said, you know, it struck me. You ever hear about dengue hemorrhagic fever? I say, yes. She said, remember the Dems tell you they were giving us a path to prosperity? But not only have they given you a path to poverty, but they have given the country a unique disease called hemorrhagic fever. And the hemorrhagic fever make all of you sick. But you know the unique thing about hemorrhagic fever and dengue hemorrhagic fever? That if you get it a second time, if you vote for them now and you get hemorrhagic fever again, it ain't sick you're going to get. It is dead you're going to get. So we got the inoculation. We got the remedy. And the remedy, God willing, she was the first to be nominated. With your help, let her be the first out of the block next Thursday night as the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Southeast. Good night, God bless, and I love you bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just 3 more speakers before United, and 2 guest speakers, and then we'll bring you the final speaker. Stay tuned.
That I have engaged discussions with the president of the Inter-American Development Bank, and he has agreed to work with us and to instruct his officials that the process of structural reform in the non-financial public sector, the statutory boards as we call them, and commissions, will begin in Barbados. And that the IDB is going to provide resources, technical and otherwise, for us to begin a full analysis of statutory boards in Barbados to look to see how we can improve their operations, bring efficiencies to them, those which may have to face some form of privatization. We will look and see which ones, and we will consider it fairly as a government, Mr. Speaker, sir, and we are starting with the first 3. National Housing Corporation, Transport Board, and Sanitation Service Authority.
Funding.
Donville Innes told Parliament that he never abused William Duguid about his wife and children.
Donville, that's why you don't know who the father of the truth is.
Well, when you figure who's the father, you know.
Donville lied. Donville Innes told the people of Barbados that he never abused William Duguid about his wife and children.
Well, when you figure who's the father, you know.
Donville lied again. Adriel Brathwaite and the rest of the DLP supported Donville.
Donville, that's why you don't know who the father of the truth is.
Well, when you figure who's the father, you know.
They all lied. What else are they lying about?
is to produce good, well-rounded, productive citizens. Cynthia Bradshaw, in my opinion, represents the best that Barbados can produce. Cynthia Bradshaw, in my view, represents what stands for the best that Barbados is capable of producing. I sat in the House of Parliament with the likes of Sir Henry Ford, Sir Louis Tull, Sir Richard Cheltenham, Sir Bernard St. John. That in itself is an embodiment of not only tremendous political experience, but it represents the zenith of achievement. It speaks to a high quality of statesmanship. It speaks to the history and legacy and richness of the Barbados Labour Party. It speaks to a level of distinction which is unmatched and unparalleled in Barbados. I sat with those men. Cynthia Bradshaw is part of the emergent new Barbados Labour Party. It would be my honor, and I trust after February 21st, it will be my privilege to sit with her in the Parliament of Barbados. Owen Arthur wants to afford young politicians in Barbados the opportunity to make significant contribution to political development and national life. He can only accomplish that with respect to Cynthia if on the February 21st, you go out in all of your numbers and vote for her. As some would say, go early, vote purposefully, vote as often as you can. You're entitled to only one vote. Make that count. Cynthia obviously is a young woman who is seizing and who has seized the opportunity to climb up the socio-economic ladder, to climb up the ladder of opportunity that Barbados affords to its young people. But I want you to note that she's not one of those people having the privilege of climbing up the ladder who seeks to go up the ladder by herself, but she's purposing to bring along others with her. That is demonstrated very ably among the cultural community of this life. I am sure it is being already demonstrated among many people in this community who are benefiting from her presence, who are benefiting from her skills, who are benefiting already from her service, although she's not officially your parliamentary representative. I believe that it is a very noble thing when people who find opportunity to mount or climb up the ladder see it not only as an opportunity themselves to reach the apex of life, but see it as a bounden duty to carry someone along with them. I'm commending Cynthia to you tonight as what represents the best that Barbados can produce and offer. I'm commending Cynthia tonight to you as one who, in climbing the ladder, is seeking to carry others with herself. You know, that justifies the millions of dollars that we spend in education in this country. That reassures me that our education is not, the cost of education is not an expenditure. It is more so an investment, and it pays off in the lives of people like Cynthia Bradshaw. She's not only beautiful, but she is bright, and she's bound with a sense of duty to serve the people from among whom she has come and from among whom she has risen. So as she seeks to climb that ladder, she seeks to carry the young people out of the pine and out of Wildy up that ladder with herself. She's seizing the opportunity to chase a dream and setting a glowing example that young people in Barbados, because of the type of society in which we live, can have a dream and see that dream realized and fulfilled in their lives. As she chases her dream, I hope she excites you about chasing your own dream, because this is what representation is all about. It's not only getting a road done, it is not only finding a job for somebody, it is not only building a house for an elderly person, but it is so blazing a trail that others behind you, especially the young, can see where you have gone and walk in your footsteps and achieve what you have achieved, and that their dreams can be realized as well. This is what Cynthia Bradshaw is doing, and people need to realize that more than running for political office, she's setting a course and exciting young people about following her along that path. She's coming to service in public life. And that's a risky business because you're risking reputation. She's a lawyer by profession, so she's risking her professional privilege by giving herself to the scrutiny and the critique of public life. She's proposing to live her life in the glare of the public because she wants to serve. She could have chosen to serve privately. She has chosen to serve, better yet, publicly, because she wants to serve in the cause of others. She's risking this. She's sacrificing many of the benefits that would come to private practice, but fool not yourself. You come to public life and you leave a lucrative profession such as the one in which she is involved. You're making a tremendous sacrifice. But there are those in life who are motivated by a sense of need to serve others, a sense of duty to community, and so they're willing to give up and to make the necessary sacrifices. I am saying that in Santia, you have one who is making a sacrifice to come to public life. I'm saying that in Santia, there's one who is blazing a trail and by so doing exciting young people behind her who we hope will chase their own dreams. We're saying that in Santia, we have one who represents the best that Barbados can offer and of whom we are justly proud, making us feel reassured that the monies that we invest in education bring us the kind of returns of which we can be justly proud. Her sense of call to duty is rooted in an area of endeavor that is of significance to the working class. The traditional areas of endeavor in Barbados have easily attracted capital. It is the non-traditional areas, one of which these days most prominently spoken of is the cultural industries, the creative industries. This does not easily attract capital. It is not easy to make your way in that field. She's championing, therefore, a cause which provides bread and butter and places food on the table and opens doors of opportunity for a multitude of working class young men and young women in this country. I am saying to you tonight, if you understand and hear me clearly, that Santia Bradshaw is not simply engaged in a political contest with one Patrick Tannis. She is doing something which is noble. She's doing something which is significant. She's doing something which is not self-serving. She's doing something in the public cause. She's doing something in the cause of young working class men and women in this country, which hopefully will change their lives radically and for the better. And that is why I seek to commend her to you tonight. She's looking to protect their rights, advance their interests, and make sure that they secure opportunity just as she has in her line of work and in her possession. There's some people who see resources that come their way simply as possessions. The others see those resources not merely as possessions, but endowments entrusted to them, gifts and skills imparted to them, opportunity allowed to come their way so that they might be in a position to help others. Santia Bradshaw, with all of her skill, with all of her knowledge, with all of her experience in a youthful body, with all of her, what she brings to the table in terms of the knowledge and the expertise and the experience, with all of this, point I am trying to make is simply this. She does not see these things as possessions which relate only to the pursuit of her self-interest, but she sees these things as endowments entrusted to her to enable her to help others. So the little Ricks in this life, as big as they are, the Peter Rams in this life, as popular as they are, need people like Santia Bradshaw to champion their cause. And therefore what she brings to the equation, what she brings to the table, are endowments entrusted to her to help these people and the likes of them who follow in their wake. And she therefore understands that what I have is given to me to cause me to find privilege, but beyond that, that I might be able to enable others to enter such privilege. I am commending her to you on the basis of these things. The community of the Pine has a special appeal because of its sporting traditions, because of community enterprise initiative, especially embodied in entities such as the Pinelands Creative Workshop. Its long sporting traditions in basketball and in football. Its cultural impulse and ethos. These things are what the communities of the Pine and Wildy and St. Michael Southeast are especially noted for. And I think that you need somebody who already has a hand attached to these things. You need somebody who has a heart that already beats for these things to be your representative. You cannot have an import from somewhere coming out of some alien experience to champion the cause of a community like this. You need a Santia Bradshaw with some significant political pedigree, but you need a Santia Bradshaw with a heart for the working class, a bosom for the people, the experience to carry the job, the know-how to get it done, the facility to network and connect with people and to make people feel comfortable and to attract young people to herself. I commend Santia Bradshaw to you. And I trust that on February 21st, you will go well and early and vote for Santia Bradshaw. Send her to the House of Assembly of Barbados. Vote for a better tomorrow. Vote for the Barbados Labour Party. Vote in the interest of yourself and of your family. We have come to the Ash Wednesday hour, and the boss has said nothing on Ash Wednesday. I therefore must stop and bid you good night, but please vote for Santia Bradshaw on February 21st.
We fix education in a mess. You hear that? More push-up, face bend, more workers gone home again. You see me now?
Thanks. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to this meeting. And what we will ask you to do is that to respect Ash Wednesday tomorrow. And there will be no political campaigning from the Barbados Labour Party, and we will ask you to do the same. We ask you also to come out and support us on Thursday night for the manifesto launch in Eagle Hall. And we ask you as well that when you go to the polls on February 21st, 2013, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., you vote for the Barbados Labour Party, and in this constituency, Santia Bradshaw. Thank you, and get home safe.